In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board is holding a public hearing on Wednesday, November 19th, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen room in the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass., to hear and act upon the application of Rising Tides LLC, 1 Washington Mall, 16th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, 02108. The applicant is seeking a backland lot special permit pursuant to section 250-13 of the Code of the Town of Bolton in Bolton's residential zoning district for property located on West Berlin Road, identified on the assessor's map 2, period B as parcel 1, period C. Hello, so can you identify yourself?
Sure, yes. My name is Richard Merrican from Merrican Engineering, Millis, Mass. And I'll give you a little bit of history. I don't know if any of you guys were on here 3 or 4 years ago. My client purchased 256 West Berlin Road, and at the time, it was 2 parcels. They had acquired another parcel. So we reconfigured the 2 parcels to create a buildable lot with appropriate frontage for 256, and left Lot 3 on the plan, the adjacent property, as a building lot under the backland provisions, but we couldn't provide a special permit application at that time, because if you see, there's a lot of wetland in the area, and we want to make sure that we had the 1.5 acre upland necessary. So we now have an order of conditions which verifies that the wetlands are correct. So we do have more than 1.5 acres of upland. And so I would...
Can you show us where that is?
Yes, this is the wetland, and then this is a 100-foot buffer, this is a 25. So we have an order of conditions to build a house here. And this is the contiguous upland. And one of the questions that we had to address was, is this a river or an intermittent stream? And it dries up quite often, but unfortunately over the intervening couple of years it was very wet and it didn't dry up, so we had to wait till it was appropriate. So we've done that, and the order of conditions was issued verifying that that's intermittent. So we're presenting now for the special permit to make this a buildable lot.
So the existing house there on lot 2 is how many feet from the road?
It's 59.75 feet. That was an existing house, actually.
Yep. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the new house that we've proposed, the sample house on this, the applicant is not going to be the builder, but meeting all the requirements, 50-foot front side provisions. And the building, all of the work will be up here at the street, which makes conservation happy, because even though there are some uplands back here, to get to them is tricky. So everything will be right at the street.
Great. So Erica, you reviewed that original
I have the A&R
and
plan that was from
for lot 2?
2010.
Yeah, we reconfigured them. We labeled that not a building lot.
It's basically this plan. right?
It's the same dimensions.
I believe it was from 2010.
So it's a backland lot, so frontage is only 167?
Yes, this doesn't have the 200-foot frontage.
So the wetlands hadn't been delineated on this?
Right.
And you just labeled it as not a buildable lot?
Yeah, we explained it to the board at the time that we would be coming in as soon as we got the conservation to give us the okay.
Are any abutters here?
Not many butters up there.
Okay.
Do Do you want to just go through the requirements for a backland lot to make sure we're hitting all of the points?
Sure.
Just real quickly. All right, the first one is minimum street frontage on an accepted way shall be 50 feet, so he has 167. The minimum allowable lot width between the dwelling site and the access to the public way is 25 feet. So I think you have more than 25 feet here,
Yeah.
right, at the pinch point?
Well, the construction area is here, so,
Okay,
yeah, it would be up there.
okay. Minimum lot size shall be 4.5 acres, you have
5.5,
5.5.
yes.
Not more than one other backland lot with frontage continuous to it will be allowed. I don't believe that's the case, right? Or I believe that is the case.
Yes, this is the entirety of the parcel they
Yeah.
own, yeah.
So that's within the one property?
Yes, if you have a chunk of land, for instance, only allowed one.
Okay.
No structure shall be erected within 50 feet of any lot line, and you said you're gonna be meeting that.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Once the backland lot is created and approved by the planning board, it cannot be subsequently divided to less than 4.5 acres.
Yeah, there's no way to subdivide this any further.
And then, as you had mentioned, at least 1.5 acres of contiguous land, which is not floodplain or wetland.
Yes,
So-
yes.
And that's it.
Does that include buffers?
Yes, it does in Bolton, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's that.
This is the acre and a half right in there. It's about, it's actually, I think we have like 1.7 acres.
Okay, great. Is that it?
That's it.
Good. Was there anything else you wanted to tell us?
That's it. This is the end of a long road for us, so.
Where's the septic system you got?
It's in the front. We have acceptable test holes and we have a plan under review by the Board of Health right now, but there's no problem with it. So
it'll-
septic will be right across the front, yeah.
Okay, great.
Where's the existing one? Across the front.
No, the existing septic is back here. Again, that house, I think, had a repair done at some point.
And the well is gonna go,
The well is actually gonna go right there. And they've actually, Conservation has let us use a little bit of the buffer, because we have all this land, and we're gonna put a restriction on it. So they've allowed us to use 25 feet of the buffer. It gives a little more room for the backyard of the house. Can't put the house there, but the
Great.
backyard. Yeah, it'll be a nice lot, not a super large lot.
The new septic at the existing house is kind of off to the side behind, and it's a mound, it's elevated.
It's a mound, yes.
Do you know if it's going to be elevated yet on the proposed lot?
No, if you've been up there, the land drops off.
Sure.
We're gonna kind of fill it to the street level, so that'll give us, it's essentially a little above ground, but it will be able to work it in, and there'll be a walkout at the back of the house.
Okay.
So it works nice, actually.
Great. So, do we have, you guys on the phones, you, hear all that?
Okay.
John, you there?
Yes, I heard all that.
Okay, so, we have a motion to, approve the special permit for backroom lot.
Make a motion to approve the applicant's request for approval of a backland lot relative to the property located in West Berlin Road, identified on Assessor's Map 2B as Parcel 1C.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Do we?
Aye.
Yeah, and we just need to take a roll call for,
Okay,
yeah,
for all of us?
for all the votes, right?
so do you have to call the name?
And I think it's the chair that does the roll call.
Okay, Eric?
Yes.
Yes. Desiree? You can wait. John Ricci?
Yep,
Was that a yay or a nay?
that's a yay.
John Carlin, how do you vote?
A, okay.
Okay, and I say yes as well.
Okay.
So it's,
I've been doing this for 45 years, I have never had trouble.
You know, the technology.
2 or 3 years ago, they approved that in town meeting, as long as you have a present
quorum.
Oh, okay.
People can call in.
Oh, good.
It's part of the
If
open
anyone
meeting law.
wants to donate a wonderful speakerphone system, because this is unbelievably primitive, that would be great. So, we'll sign that now.
I don't have the final, I just did a draft for your review.
I looked at the draft, I have no issues with it. I thought it was very nice.
Oh, well, thank you. At the end of the meeting, if you want, I can print out a final, and we can have it board. Well, actually, with John and John not here, actually, I think it's better if you sign on behalf of the board.
Okay,
Okay.
so, you need to vote on that,
You signing for the,
on behalf of the board.
sure.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Make a motion that Jonathan, as chair, can sign in support of the application on behalf of the board.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do you have to do a roll call?
John Renzi says aye.
Unfortunately, yes.
John Carlin, how do you?
Aye.
James, aye. Terry Gensler,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Jonathan Keith, yes. Any no's?
It's kind of good.
Thank you.
Give you the original? I
I-
think I did.
I do have the copies
The
right here.
Mylar, yeah, I
Yeah.
did that.
Don't you sign that as well?
No, you don't have to sign it because it's, we're not changing any property lines, so we can do a surveyor's certificate, but we have to note the special permit on,
Okay.
there's a place on the plan to do that. When I get that. Very good, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I've moved to close the hearing.
All in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Good enough. See if we can get that one back.
Thank you.
Can you just get away from the phone people? Get away.
I think that's fine.
Did you guys approve that? John and John?
Yeah. Aye.
Okay, good. So now we're moving on to a hearing related to Century Mill Estates.
I'm actually keeping myself.
Okay, James, thanks.
Is it transfer?
Are we just waiting on time?
One more minute, it's 7:44. 7:45, we can start.
So just, I think the front row is great.
Oh, yeah, change it however you want, and then that's just a draft to
That's the
start
idea.
from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board is holding a continuation of a public hearing on Wednesday, November 19th, 2014 at 7:45. I'm just going, we've been through this before, just that it's a continuation, and we're going to hear and act upon a modification to the permit condition number 16 related to hours of operation, and shown on page 8 of amendment of definitive subdivision approval recorded at Worcester Registry Book 41767, page 165. The initial public hearing was held on November 5th, 2014. The hours of operation are related to construction activity at Century Mill Estates located off Mill Pond Road, identified as Assessor's Map 2D as parcels 53 through 135 in Bolton's residential district. The proposed development consists of 78 lot subdivision currently under construction. So, at our last hearing, we had a lot of people. I see some faces from that last meeting expressing concerns about the hours of operation, working beyond the hours of operation. There were opinions about reducing the hours of operation on certain days like weekends and holidays. Saturdays and holidays were mentioned. There were also concerns about the safety of school children getting on the bus, and specifically it seemed that these were school children of families who bought in the Century Mill neighborhood. So they're gathering for the bus, and there are large vehicles, construction vehicles, going in and out during pickup and drop off, and the parents aren't feeling safe. There was another issue related to large equipment being unloaded on Spectacle Hill Road in front of the Spectacle Hill entrance, blocking traffic on Spectacle Hill Road. So, there was a question about why that equipment isn't being driven into the development and unloaded where it's going to be working rather than down on the street blocking traffic. Were there any other? So we did get, I think, was it 25 petitions?
Quite a few. I don't know the exact number, but
from abutters, people who live in the neighborhood, complaining about the noise and hours of operation. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, Erica, or other board members?
No, I think those were the main points. Working within the confines of the permit, looking at the days, the 7-day allowance and the holiday allowance as currently exists under the permit, seeing if that's appropriate going forward. Talking about whether we went outside of the permit, what repercussions would look like. Unloading and loading on the street versus on the site, like you said. And I think the school bus safety, those are my major ones.
I did receive an email since the last public hearing from Ray St. Martin, one of the abutters, and he had concerns about speed limits within the subdivision. Construction vehicles just, traveling quickly along Mill Pond Road. So I said I would forward along his email to you so that could be addressed as well. That's in your packet.
That also happens outside the development. The equipment comes up the hill, which they're not supposed to. They do that a lot. If they're hauling dirt, they go all day long with 18 wheelers.
Sir, let me...
Right up Spectacle.
Sir, we're going to open it up in a minute.
Okay.
So I'll just read that. This is the email Ray St. Martin wrote to Erica. Thanks for all your attention to the noise and school bus issues at Century Mill Estate Development. One safeguard the other residents and I have asked the developer for was to install speed limit signs, one on Mill Pond and one on Cider Circle. Andy Bettitson, his assistant, Michelle, has actually gotten approval from the town, see the email below, for 20 mile an hour on Mill Pond and 15 miles an hour on Cider Circle. For whatever reason, they haven't been installed. I've even offered to pay for them. Can we add this item as a requirement under the noise and school bus resolution? So I think Michelle, the assistant that was mentioned, she wrote that, she had gotten approval from Town Hall. There seems to be some question about, what signage the town...
Yeah, I'm not sure who she spoke to within the town. If it was just a discussion she had with someone. But because they're private roads, and they're not public roads, we really can't be putting up speed limit signs and enforcing them. That's something we can do once they become public roads. So I think we could recommend to Andy just putting up, signs that are more as precaution. But because they are private roads.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up unless there are any comments?
So he did install a speed limit sign.
Yes, one
Oh, sorry.
second, if that's okay. So if you could raise your hand and identify yourself, and then I'll call on you, and then you can say, but go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I'm actually Kate Faber,
Okay,
Grace White.
sorry.
I just wanted to note that Andy did install speed limit signs this week. However, they are 30 miles an hour. So I know you can't enforce them, it sounds like, but that does seem awfully fast for a neighborhood, particularly for the construction vehicles size that are traveling through the neighborhood. We have small children. So I don't know, something you can address. Doesn't sound like you can, I don't know.
Well, I can certainly talk to Andy about taking them down. I think it's no sign.
He did, but it was slow children, which is great.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
I was there today and I didn't see it, but do you know where he put up the sign?
Right when you're entering in beyond the Century Mill sign, it's right in the beginning of the development, the So Children, and then the 30-mile-an-hour sign is right after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We installed 4.
Can you identify
Oh,
yourself?
Andy Bennettson, the developer of Century Mill Estates. We installed 4 speed limit signs. Initially, and I think we installed also 2 school, children signs. I don't know exactly what they say, I forget how it's worded. Please drive, But what happened was Michelle called, I had assigned the task to Michelle to put the signs in, get the signs. And I explained to her that the town has specific requirements for how the signs, what they look like. They're supposed to be uniform with the rest of the town and so forth. Anyway, she ordered signs. They weren't the correct signs. So we had to get the correct signs that the town requires. As far as the speed limit, which is what we have installed now. As far as the speed limits, those are the speed limits that are set forth in the approval for the project. That was already determined what the speed limits would be, so that's what we had to put on the signs. It's stated in the approval that the speed limits for the roads are a certain speed. And it's not up to me I can't deviate from the approval. So that's why the speed limit signs are those speeds, because that's what the approval was. It's 30 miles per hour on Mill Pond Road and 20 miles per hour on Center Circle, which is a cul-de-sac. And it's, I believe, also the same 20 miles per hour on Old Stone Circle. So that's what the planning board had approved.
Andy, do you know which approval that's stated in? Because I'm looking at our subdivision approval right now, and condition number 17, all it says is speed limit sign shall be placed on the roads within the subdivision at such locations as are selected by the Bolton Police Department.
I think it's on the plans themselves.
The plans themselves.
Yeah. I know it's in the approvals or on the plans, because that's where we got the numbers from.
So we'll look at that.
And I also think maybe asking Police Chief Albano's opinion on this as well would be helpful.
Sure. So we'll start with Mary.
Mary Chumo, Horn Road Public Way Safety Committee. Speed limits are set by the state. They're not approved by the town. So you would have to have a speed limit study done to set speed limits in the development. So it doesn't come with speed limits.
We got, well, that was that we did have a
Andy,
traffic study.
one second, we're gonna go to Chief Alfano.
I'm jumping up off my seat here. The police department does not set speed limits, as Mary said. The speed limits are set by the state, and the board of selectmen can also weigh in on that. Any signs that would be posted on any roadways within that development right now are totally unenforceable by the police department until that development becomes an accepted public roadway. So right now, you could put any signs that you want up there. There's no penalty other than the developer dealing with his contractors. They're basically cautionary signs. We cannot write tickets, we cannot enforce them. It's all private roadway.
Do you have other comments? Sir, you were wanting to say
Yeah, I've lived a
something?
long time on Spectacle Hill Road. I'm Dave Sherman. I've lived there about 57 years.
What's your address?
104, right on the town line.
Yep.
Very tricky corner there, very narrow road. And I've been told that the speed limit there is 40 miles an hour when I challenged it. Because I've seen a lot of people use that road, going down pretty fast. I think it's dangerous right on that curve. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk tonight was that a lot of times when Phil is being hauled, it comes up the hill every time. All day long, next day too. I don't know where it comes from, but I know where it's going. Cement truck, same thing. Every time a foundation gets poured, it comes up the hill. There's a sign at the entrance up at the development, under the agreements, I think, that they're to come in on South Bolton Road. Drivers do what they want. I'm sure there's been more than one complaint to the police department, I know that. And some of the other things other people covered, but that's my main concern. Oh, one other thing. So I agree with the weekend thing, that, we ought to get a break there, because I sit right on that crusher almost, down at that end of the property on the development, and I hear the backup on those trucks and the crusher machine all week long, so when it's running, yeah. And that's annoying. During the week, I guess we have to put up with it, but it would probably be beneficial to let up a little holidays and weekends. Think about it.
Thank you. So, at the last hearing, we didn't have Andy here, and we didn't have his attorneys here as well, Alan Shockett here in front. So we certainly heard from you, but, if you wanted to share your thoughts with them before we, start discussing the schedule. Yes, Andy.
I just wanted, in case you wanted to look it up, it's on the general notes of the subdivision plans. On the plans, general note, I think it's on, I'm looking at it, it's the second page. It says, speed limit signs shall be placed on each of the 3 subdivision roads. Road A shall have a speed limit of 30 miles per hour, and roads B and C shall have a speed limit of 20. So that's why.
So, so what Chief Alfano is saying is that he can't police those limits, but it's good to have them up. It's good to have signs up saying that there are children in the neighborhood. But that's one piece of, you communicating with your workers and your subcontractors about, what's expected of them, in terms of, offloading vehicles was one complaint, vehicles holding back at during pickup and drop off of, the children.
I can address the unloading of the vehicle.
So why are they getting unloaded in front of the entrance of Century Mill Estates rather than within the development?
Occasionally, we have, something large that is being delivered, and the large, it's a low bed. For heavy equipment, that's what's used, a low bed trailer truck. It cannot make the turn into the development. The entrance, it's not wide enough for the truck based on the width of Spectacle Hill Road and so forth. So whenever we offload, we have a police detail present.
So is anybody here who was here last time talking about that issue?
Christine Peters, Spectacle Hill.
Yeah.
I've seen the police detail once with the unloading and the loading. But pretty much haven't seen any others. I saw a truck there on Friday, either picking up or dropping off during school time. And the bus could barely make it through. I think it was Thursday or Friday.
So just going back to a letter, this was from Superintendent of Schools, Michael Wood, wrote a letter, in support of Ray and Kate St. Martin's concerns about the bus picking up and dropping off. So there, the period in the morning was 7:45 to 8 a.m. and then in the afternoon it was 3:30 to 3:45. So I'm wondering, if you could come up with some ways of limiting or stopping, your workers' traffic during those sensitive times. Andy. Probably be a little bit bigger window there, but
It's a pretty difficult thing to do. If you do have construction going on, and you have trucks that you've hired for the day, or for however long, and they're hauling from one location to another, to have them stop during the middle of the day and not use a road for a certain period of time. I'm not sure that maybe there's some other alternative, but to close a road for a period
it's not
of time.
closing a road, it's limiting activity for, it's about 25 minutes.
I don't even think it's activity, it's construction ingress and egress. Construction vehicle ingress and egress into the project for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. I think that's one way to carve it.
Well, when you've got, we don't do it that often, but if you do hire trucks to move dirt from, let's say, sometimes we haul from Lowe's, for example. You may have 5 or 6 trucks hauling and they're going back and forth all during the day. I don't know, it's...
So to his point, you're buying fill from Highland Commons and you're driving up Spectacle Hill.
No, they don't. They come down, they're not allowed to go on Spectacle Hill.
Yeah, they come up Spectacle Hill
They-
all day long. It's up to the driver, that's what's going on.
So that, I just shifted to another issue, but you mentioned Highland Commons.
Right, but they're not
supposed to.
They're not supposed to.
But
and
it sounds like they are. Chief Alfano, did you have any
Just
questions?
a footnote on this, we did stop a dump truck today, a white Mack dump truck, going the wrong way on that road with fill.
Okay.
He was advised. And I do have to make it clear to everybody, I know that there's signs at the end of the development that say the trucks can't take a left out of the development and go up that hill. That, from a ticket standpoint from the police, is unenforceable because we can't control the flow of trucks on a public way. They're allowed by federal rule, interstate commerce. So all of those rules and all those guidance signs are simply agreements between the planning board and the developer. So if a truck violates that and the developer is aware of it, it's not that the truck driver is breaking the law. We have no ticketing authority. We can only stop that truck and advise them that, that they shouldn't do that. We have no authority to give them a ticket. That's a violation of the agreement between the town planning board and the developer. Now, offloading the heavy equipment in the roadway, we have had heavy equipment from the project removed via tow truck or flatbed because they were blocking a public roadway. We have control over that. And we've required Mr. Bennett that whenever he needs to unload equipment down there, he must, not an option. If he's gonna block a public road with heavy equipment, he must hire a police detail, just like all the other contractors in town, if they're gonna obstruct a public roadway. And if the roadway is obstructed and there is no police detail there, then we would want a call about that because that technically would be an unauthorized obstruction of a public roadway.
So that's good to know. and good to share with your neighbors. So back to the school. You know, the children waiting for the school bus, getting on and off, having to deal with large trucks driving by. It seems like it's an issue that's going to become bigger and bigger for you as you continue to build and you continue to sell houses to families. So it seems important to come up with a solution. Sir?
Hi, my name is John Balance, 360 Still River Road. We actually purchased a lot, so we'll be building there as well. I think Ray said there was 12 or 14 kids at that stop now. We'll be adding 4 to that next year. There's a lot of other houses being built there, so that's going to easily grow to 20, 30. I've heard precedents of the town allowing buses to go down private ways. Drumlin Hill, I think, got buses to come that way before it's been accepted as a road. And just curious why that's not being considered or has not been an option for the superintendent to consider. I think it's very, very, very difficult for, just listening to as an outsider, I don't know much about the development process, but how you can control the number of trucks coming in and out every day at that window, it seems like it would be very difficult. It would be much easier for the superintendent to make an exception to allow the bus to pick up the kids.
You had some information about that you...
I was just told by the town administrator that buses can't go on private roads, and that's really the extent of that
Because
conversation.
Drumlin Hill is just recently, I think, undergoing acceptance, and they've had buses go down there for a while.
I can certainly look into it and
That would
understand, you know,
be great.
how they got that approval.
But I thought the superintendent did opine on this side and pretty clearly said, no. I thought he made
I
it.
think
I'm not
he
even making it up.
discouraged relocating that pickup location.
Okay.
When that bus stop becomes 30, 40 kids,
It's very
There's no
difficult in the
space.
morning for us with small
it's
children.
not only going to be walking traffic, it's going to be 15 or 20 cars driving up there too, because it's not a short distance for 4-year-olds to walk, 5-year-olds to walk.
It'd be easier to make a pickup at Cider Circle, because there's no construction vehicles going up Cider Circle as frequently as it is at the entrance. So if people could wait in the circle area, it would be a much safer feeling in the morning. and the
So
afternoon.
maybe it was it your husband you spoke with?
I actually,
Superintendent?
yes, and I actually called the bus company
Yeah.
originally, because we had a kindergartner when we moved in the neighborhood. So I was under the impression that the bus would pick up a kindergartner at the front door, but they wouldn't come in, because they said they felt unsafe because there were so many construction vehicles in the neighborhood. And she thought she couldn't make the turn around the circle to turn around. But I don't know that she's actually tried to make the turn around. That's what I was told when I inquired. I inquired twice.
Chief O'Connor?
Unfortunately, and I voiced this opinion right from the outset of the development, it's really a tough area because of the narrow roadways in. Myself and the DPW had a lot of concerns about that when the initial approval was granted. It's a choke point. Is there any consideration that maybe the board or the developer has given to either constructing or finding an alternate service entrance while the area is under construction for all these trucks to come in that might be a little bit more out of the way? Maybe utilizing a lot that's not being built on yet or something, finding another way in that avoids that choke point at Spectacle Hill Road.
Well, there will be another entrance opening up on Century Mill Road.
We're aware of that one because we've had issues with the construction equipment before at that entrance.
Yeah.
But is there, if that's not suitable, could there be a third alternative that could be looked at?
Andy, do you want to answer that?
We've looked, actually, for other ways into the property in relation to building, for example, Phase 4, which is the road that's currently under construction, close to being paved. There's no, I couldn't find one then. There's the only place our property touches a public street. is at Spectacle Hill Road and at Century Mill Road.
So when will the entrance for Century Mill Road be open?
Not for a while. It's not imminent, certainly.
6 months, a year, 2 years?
It could be a couple, 1 to 2 years.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, in the back?
Hi, Margaret Campbell, Spectacle Hill Road. I just want to point out for reference that having households bring their students to the end of the road is not unprecedented in Bolton. And there's a common drive just up Spectacle Hill Road that has, 8 houses on it. And they, for, I think, always bring the kids down to the end of the road. And Wheeler Road, which has, I don't know how many homes on it, 25, 30, those students are brought up to the end of the road. So it's not entirely about the ease or difficulty of the bus to get to the homes, and sometimes it is just an accommodation for getting the students to school in a time period that's not an hour and a half drive, to get the bus route completed. I also am not clear on how the bus traveling up the new road resolves the issue of the road being blocked by large equipment and making it difficult for the bus to pass. I mean, I think those are sort of two separate issues. If the offloading is being done at the time that the bus is coming by, whether the bus is turning up the road or not, it's going to be blocked. So it sounds as though we have yet to resolve the question of the truck's coincidence with the school bus, or school buses. And I would also like to just throw in that it seems to me that the turn actually on South Bolton onto Spectacle Hill is very similar actually in size to the turn from Spectacle Hill onto not Century Mill, the new road. I'm not 100% convinced that the equipment can't make that turn. I also wonder, with bringing loads of loam or soil or dirt or whatever to make roadways or fill, would it be easier if that was not in the 18-wheel trucks, the large trucks, but maybe in smaller dump trucks? Maybe they can negotiate the roads better.
So, there are a number of issues here. I think the biggest issue, and the one I think we can try and tackle tonight, is the hours of work. I think we can continue to work on whether the bus can go in there and how we can try and make that work. But in terms of the hearing tonight and trying to get something done, I think it's important to focus on the hours of operation. So just before we get into that discussion specifically, how has it been since the last meeting in terms of work stopping, not starting till 7 and stopping at 5?
Orson Hunt, 62 Century Mill. It's dark at 5 now. I think Mother Nature has taken care of us for the winter. It still remains to be seen what happens next spring.
So I guess, you know, in thinking about your comments last week, you know, a proposal that I would make and we can discuss is, you know, so Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and then, you know, using Boxborough as an example, they have Saturdays some towns have Saturday 8 to 12. Boxborough has Saturdays by special approval only. And so there was a lot of concern last week that that work was taking place before and after the hours. We talked about the $300 fine if work is taking place during those times and somebody from the town witnesses that. Some people in the audience said that wasn't enough. So I think if we, you know, made Saturdays by special approval only, that would be kind of conditional on whether you know, the hours of operation are being respected during the week. So, you know, that would be my proposal, but I don't know what everybody else thinks on the board.
I think that's a fine idea, I'd support that. The way I'd look at it is Monday through Friday as is, the way the permit currently grants it, and then make a modification to the permit to say Saturdays by special permit, by special approval, no Sundays and holidays, and then I'd be concerned with those two 15-minute windows. I think that's a fine proposal to make, certainly at least for now, and put into the permit that there's no construction ingress or egress, 7:45 to 8 and 3:30 to 3:45. If we're looking at just hours of operation, that would be my recommendation, my proposal, my thinking. I think just those 3 points.
I would also strongly approve Monday through Friday with the conditional special approval on Saturdays, assuming that over some period of time, Monday through Friday goes exceptionally well with abiding by hours of operation.
Yeah, so I agree with the hours. Maybe I'd like to hear from people that live in the area. Me personally, Saturday at 8 is still kind of a little early. So if there were to be Saturday hours, even 9 or 10 would be better. Like 10 to 4 or 9 to 4, I don't know.
But if we handle that by special approval, then I think we can accommodate that case by case.
Yeah, well, even with special approval, if everything's going well, people might be more open to not worrying about Saturdays if they could have a cup of coffee in the morning, you know, and it starts a little later. So I don't know, it's just something I'm throwing out there, and maybe we can hear from that.
I wanted to address your comment about how the hours have stopped because it's gotten dark out. That isn't really what's happened. What happened was what the planning board wants and what the Conservation Commission wants are very, very different. And we had a very severe time problem starting on July 1 to get the culverts done, the one on Road C and to get this work on Road A done by, I think our deadline was October 1 or October 15, I don't remember the exact date. Anyway, not all the work got completed, and we have been under severe criticism and enforcement orders and things from the Conservation Commission because the work isn't getting, even going 7 days a week, it didn't get done to their satisfaction time-wise. So by cutting us down 2 out of 7 days a week, because we're going to have the same problem next summer, we can't do certain work for them, for the environmental protection until July 1 because it has to be dry season in order to do certain work. But that's going to take place on Road A up where the culvert's going to be built next year, next summer. And as I say, it's got to get done within a certain time frame, and you're cutting off 28% of our ability to get the work done, which is going to slow it down even more, which is going to make them even crazier, which really isn't good for anybody, I don't think. I understand everybody's concern. I certainly respect everybody's concern about working 7 days a week and listening to the banging 7 days a week. And frankly, I don't think Andy wants to work 7 days a week. I would respectfully request that we do Sundays and holidays and leave Saturdays alone, because we're going to need it. Coming up in the summer, As I say, we tried to get in before July 1 to take care of some of the time pressure. We couldn't get in there before. They're not going to let us in there before again. It's going to be a problem.
May I address that?
Yeah, please.
I think that there would be more empathy for the time crunch had there been more empathy for the residents. There's an entire community of petitions. The room has been full of those Century Mills and surrounding residents for meeting upon meeting. So it's difficult to say, okay, we totally understand you need to work around the clock to get to where you are, but that's not realistic for the residents of the town. So I personally, and I can't speak for everybody, but I'm less empathetic about trying to resolve timing problems for the development and more empathetic for the residents that have been enduring these look the other way type kind of operations.
I don't disagree. Who is that?
So this is Board Member John Ricci.
Okay. And I respect it. As I say, I just don't know that going from 7 to 5 days a week. I would respectfully request that we go from 7 to 6 and see how that works out. And holidays also.
So man-hour wise, for instance, on Sundays, whatever number man-hour, man time, even if you took Saturday, can you just shift that to a Monday through Friday, or is it just not feasible? Like, it's too many people in one spot type situation, how could you shift man-hours around? Or maybe you guys can answer that.
I can't. Andy?
It's similar to what you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain amount of equipment that you can fit in a certain area and so forth, and,
So it's not like you could just, if we were talking about, so you could take Saturday and Sunday's hours and just overlap them.
I don't want to work 7 days a week either. And trying to, this past year, to get the work done in the July 1 to whatever it was, October 1 time period, was also further exacerbated, if that's the right word, because we requested our Conservation Commission our permit from the Conservation Commission was due to expire in September 20th for the entire development. We went in and requested an extension of the entire permit a year in advance, didn't get it. 9 months in advance, didn't get it. 6 months in advance, did not get it. Last spring, did not get it. So we were sort of also left with the situation, since we didn't have an extension of the permit, to try to get all the work done prior to the permit expiring. The permit was eventually extended, but it was extended 2 weeks before the expiration date. And that really exasperated a problem, because we were under a lot of pressure, didn't know we were gonna have any more time other than this year to get all the work done in the entire project. And that, frankly, we rented extra equipment and expended several $100,000 this year that we didn't need to spend at all this year. At some point in the future we would have, but we didn't have the financing for it, and it was really a problem. And we worked 7 days a week with extra equipment, with extra people, paying overtime, because the permit wasn't extended. I mean, so that would be helpful if in the future, if you have a permit coming up and somebody asks if it's going to be extended, extend it in a reasonable amount of time before the expiration date, not 2 weeks till, don't wait till the last minute, because it really puts somebody in a position of having to protect themselves, get as much work done as possible, or get it all done. Otherwise, you lose your right to do the work.
The bottom line being, we don't, because the permit's been extended until September of 2015, it's okay now.
Except that even the wetland bylaw in Bolton only allows them to extend it for 1 year, which in our case means 3 months, because we can't start the work until July.
Right. According to the natural
We have
heritage.
3 months, again, next year, to get the second culvert crossing done. And it's a lot of work.
So I guess what we heard is that, you know, you kind of warn everybody out with that schedule this summer. So, you know, if the conditions are the same, you're gonna have to really be prepared and be organized and plan how you're gonna do it. Because, you know, from what we heard, everybody is just exhausted by the noise. They spent the whole summer listening to that instead of enjoying, you know, their usual quality of life. Saturday in Bolton, Sunday, or, you know, July 4th, those types of things were just filled with the noise of construction, and it sounds like it's just too much for them. So that's, you know, why they're petitioning, that's why everybody's here.
I understand.
This in the back.
Hi, Margaret Campbell, Spectacle Hill Road. I just want to say this talk of feverish pace can't be overstated. The trucks come and go literally back to back like a train. And they're going not just in one direction, they're going in both directions. And so what has happened is that these two 18-wheel trucks, I think that's what it is, or 16, whatever, they will meet each other on Spectacle Hill Road, and the road now is quite a bit wider than it was prior to the construction beginning. And because they can't pass each other, they pull off onto the shoulder. So I personally am concerned. Also, the trucks, I understand the speed limit is not posted, and they're going the speed limit, but it seems to me if you're driving through a neighborhood in a truck with several tons of dirt in it, that you would go slower than 40 miles an hour, and that's not always the case. I know they're not breaking a law because the speed limit is 40 miles an hour. I was at first pleased to see construction vehicles caution, because my first thought was, oh, that's good, they're telling the construction vehicles to be careful in this neighborhood, and then it dawned on me, that's a sign for me. On my road, in my neighborhood, that I've been living for 25 years, that I need to watch out for 18-wheel vehicles that are driving 40 miles an hour down the small little road. You know, that is disconcerting. I've spoken with Chief Alfonso about this. I think that I'm glad that no one has thus far proposed that we widen the road to make, to resolve some of the problems that I've just mentioned, because moving toward greater asphalt is not the direction that I'm looking for. I think that we need to really consider and this impact, you've got a group of people here now and complaining, but this has been going on for 2-3 years. And I myself stood out in the middle of the roadway at 5 o'clock in the morning one morning, stopping a truck that was going up to the site. It was not a pretty sight, but you know, they have a lot of pressures apparently with environmental regulations that make that time period crazy. Moving people from Saturday to Monday to make Monday even more crazy, I'm not sure is really a good way to go. I live there, and you suggested maybe you want to hear from the neighbors. I would rather not have that start at 10. You know, these guys are up and ready to go. I've seen it many a time at 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I think if you want to restrict, you know, Sundays and holidays, I think that you should maybe, I like your proposal of Saturday as long as everything else goes smoothly, but I wouldn't reduce the hours on Saturday. That's my suggestion. And I'm hoping that we will sometime look at speed limit and the construction of the intersection of Spectacle Hill and South Bolton.
Okay, so I think we'll try and wrap this up. So, I mean, it sounds like we're agreed on the, typical hours of operation Monday through Friday.
How would the proposed approval of the Saturday work?
Basically, I think I would think about just taking, Saturdays off the table for the winter, and we'd revisit it in the spring once work picks up. But it could just be, that may be too specific, so it's just Saturdays by special approval. And, we would just go 2 weeks, and see if, your contractors, your subcontractors are respecting the startup and the stop times, as well as the offloading, and, how are they making the parents and the children feel safe? So all those issues we'd be considering, like how many complaints are we getting, and we go through that.
I'd like to hear from the chief about, the police come to our site, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 times per week, because someone calls that we're working late. And that's probably been going on for the last several months. Not once, when the police have come, has there been any equipment on. And they get there at 5:05, 8:05.
Yes, you'd like to respond?
I documented 8 times since this October 1st deadline that I handed to Jonathan at the last meeting. 8 times of violations of the time. What happens is, because I was being reasonable and considerate and thinking, well, gee, maybe their watch is slow, or they've got, so I'll wait till 5:15, 5:20 to call the police. The police are busy, they have important things to do. They don't show up right away. They show up at 5:40, and at 5:39 you've shut your engine off. And that's happened repeatedly, and I'm not the only one that's happened to.
I don't agree with you whatsoever.
All right.
And I'd just like to know what the police chief has to say.
You're supposed to address things to me. And
I did. I asked you if I could get the report from the police chief if ever in the last few months they've come there and had any equipment running out of the working hours. We are trying, not trying, we are shutting down at 5 o'clock.
So Chief Alfano, can you talk about, what the main duty is of your force, and what it's like to get these calls, and, how it's affecting things?
Well, a lot of times it feels to the officers that we're playing a game of cat and mouse, that, can we get there in time enough to catch them? Because when we do get a call, if the officers are available, they'll be up there. It's not an emergency call, so we don't want them screaming up there with blue lights on, but they'll be there within 10 minutes to get up there. Unfortunately, all the times we've been talking about, morning and evening, are our busiest times. Commuter times are when we get the most accidents. In the morning, we're busy with school traffic and with most accidents. So we do take the calls very seriously. When the officers get up there, they actually have to witness and hear the equipment being on. We have worked very closely with the board and with Erica, the town planner, and the town clerk, so we do have that ticketing authority now, that $300 fine. And believe me, we will use it if we're justified in doing that. But we can't ask the officers to write a ticket for something that it's just like on a motor vehicle violation. They have to see it or hear it. If they catch somebody and the developer or the contractors are breaking the rules, we will hold them accountable for that. We make random patrols through there I myself do them as well. As I said yesterday, we caught a dump truck going the wrong way in the road. Can't give him a ticket, but we sure gave him a piece of our mind. Yesterday also, there was a piece of large equipment, which I'm pretty sure was gonna go out onto the public roadway. Had we caught it, that a piece of equipment would have been towed on site, which would have been a very costly mistake for the contractor and the developer had that occurred. So, you know, we're up there, we're doing the best we can. You have to remember, there's only 2 police officers on duty at a time in Bolton. And, you know, we really have made it a priority. As a matter of fact, Erica received a copy, which I believe she may have forwarded to the board, on another reminder that I sent out to the officers to, you know, make sure they look for that equipment in the roadway without, I mean, it's no secret, if we find the equipment there, it's gonna be a very costly mistake for the developer. So we're up there. I would highly recommend to all the residents, if a reasonable period of time goes by and the equipment is operating in violation of the agreements, you know, call us, because we want to know that. And if there is a wrong being done, we want to be able to obviously hold the developer accountable for that. And I do have to say, when the officers get up there, most of the time, they haven't heard the equipment running. And they certainly aren't taking their time. It's not a call that we take very lightly. They know the amount of time I've spent dealing with this issue. They know the amount of time the town planner and the planning board has spent dealing with this issue. I've had many conversations with the developer, and they have not always been pleasant. So we.
You've had conversations with me?
Well, the officers have. So we need to, if you see something that's not right, tell us right away.
Great. So, you know, what I like about the Saturdays by special approval is that it gives, you know, the planning board, you know, some ability to respond to your complaints, you know, every 2 weeks. So, you know, that's why I'm proposing that in addition to, you know, the other ways that you can, you know, deal with it through, you know, the Bolton Police.
Oh, yeah.
The bus part, I don't know how we can fit that in, but if you want to talk about that.
I'd be comfortable making a motion if you want to hear it. Think we're there yet? I'll come back to it. I mean, I think I've got 3 points, and maybe some, but not all 3, are appropriate to tackle tonight. I think the first one, no Sundays, no holidays. So make a specific modification of special permit to not allow Sunday and holiday work anymore.
Can we specify holidays? Which ones?
I think the second would be Saturdays by special permit, and play that a 2-week by a time. Look at the time constraints, what's actually being contemplated on a Saturday, and listen to the argument, listen to the case as to Saturdays.
So just, can I stop you?
Sure.
Andy was saying, how would we define holidays, just to be more specific? So that's...
Federally recognized holidays, bank holidays, I think pretty simple.
And I've seen conditions where they actually spell out which holidays
And that
they're
would be
referring
fine.
to, so we could do it
I
that
don't
way,
think there'd be a
too.
huge surprise there, I think it's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
But yeah, issue 1 or item 1 to consider, I think, no Sundays, no holidays. Item 2, which could even be separately, Saturdays by special permit. A third, just simply, I don't think it's difficult, limit construction vehicle ingress and egress into the site, 7:45 to 8 in the AM, 3:30 to 3:45 in the PM. And the fourth, and it's not really a scheduling issue, but I think it's an important issue, to specifically specify in the special permit that the developer must hire detail if a public road is to be blocked. So again, maybe we can take a couple of them at a time. Maybe this is an ongoing conversation. I think some are easy.
Yeah, no, I think we could group them all together. I think there's consensus on that. We can keep talking. I think the police, the detail, it sounds like that's a requirement, Chief O'Connor.
That's been my requirement, because we cannot have obstruction of the public.
But I don't think that's specifically in the special permit for the project, and I think it should be. I think it should be spelled out. So we can look at this. I mean, we're planning for the future and trying to look at it and say, is this permit being complied with, you know, on a go-forward basis? So let's spell out specifically what we want. I understand it's a law, but...
So my one thought on the hours is, if a truck was coming with fill or something, I'm not sure you know, he can tell them, you know, if you're there at 7:45 stop, then where do they stop on the road out there?
I think it's inconvenient and, pardon my French, a pain in the ass, but I think he can. I think hours can, a 15-minute window in the morning and in the afternoon can.
Well, I'm just saying, so if,
can be part of
so
it.
if he says, you know, don't show up at this time, and they get there at, you know, where do they stop? They stop.
That's not a,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Yeah.
I'm just the problems in the whole town, and I don't think we can catch
Well,
ourselves
so
up on
my
that
thought
problem.
on this, I think the best solution on the buses is to move the bus stop on the inside personally.
I might be making it up. I thought we really investigated this. And
I don't know.
It was the superintendent of the
I don't
school.
know
If there was no,
Yeah.
they didn't want to budge on that.
They
didn't
told us
want that.
no.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty
Was an exception.
black and white.
Yeah.
No,
I would not.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they did it on Northwood, so I can check into that.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that.
It would be nice to see it investigated a little bit further. Can the bus make the turn safely? If not, then I guess it's not an option, but.
But I think it's a problem that the neighborhood has been dealing with for a long
Yeah.
time.
I think
we've got to address it.
Moving the bus stop inside would be a cleaner solution, because I just think you're gonna run up with, I mean, he doesn't have, he could tell them, don't show up at this time, but if, you know, I don't know.
I think if we just stick to the hours of operation with this special Saturday thing, then that's how we keep track of.
It's a start. I agree, it's a
this-
start.
The safe, you know, the school bus safety, you know, complaints about all the other things that have come in, not just,
Well, can, Andy, or you could just, can you tell your deliveries, you know, don't show up at these, like,
I don't know, for example, when a truck's coming, all the time. I mean, just like if you have a package and somebody sent it to you from FedEx, you don't know when FedEx doesn't call you and say, well, we're gonna be there at X time. I don't even know when all the trucks are coming. And I think combined with the fact that they're not supposed to go past my development down South Bolton Road, they have no place to go. And
Well, yeah, so I'm just nervous.
See, I think you could be causing a much
That's what I'm
bigger
saying.
problem.
I'm worried that we could end up with like a line of trucks on the
I
outside
mean,
waiting for the
these are
time.
big trucks in the roads in the area.
I'd just say it's 15 minutes, and
Well, I
it's
know.
like, go get a coffee, like, if you're bringing Phil in from Highland
Yeah.
Commons, go get a coffee, go use
Yeah.
the bathroom, you know,
Yeah,
and, you know, just knowing.
I'm just trying to look at it on all sides.
Yeah, no, I just think, you know,
I
if you're
can't mon- I can't
communicating with your
monitor.
contractors, you can
I
tell them.
can't control though when all the trucks come. There are deliveries being made of materials and there's no way to tell somebody,
I understand there's some deliveries that you can't control,
Right.
but I do know that there are others that you can.
Oh, there
So
are.
it would just be,
Yes.
it would be about reducing, showing that you understand the issue is important, and it's going to become a bigger issue every house you sell, and that you're making an effort to communicate with everybody who's working there. I don't think that's too much to ask. We're not asking for 100%, we're just asking for, you know, a significant change. So I see hands, but I'd just like to get this resolved. So yeah, I'd be looking for a motion to just, you know, deal with the time issues. We'll keep working on the school bus issue.
Right now, or another meeting, or?
Yeah, no, Erica will look into it, we'll explore it and talk about it at another meeting. Does that sound, you ready?
Yeah, Chair, I'd move to deal with the timing issue in the following respects, to specifically modify the special permit to disallow Sunday and holiday work at the site, and to move the day of Saturday to a special permit type basis, a special permission case-by-case type basis.
A second.
So, all in favor, say aye, but we're gonna do a roll call. So, John Ritchie, John Carlin,
John Ritchie says aye. Yes, yay.
John Carlin,
Carlin says aye.
David Yezuri, Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Jonathan Keefe, aye. Any against?
Before we close it, I know there were just a couple, I just
Okay,
want a
sure.
couple more, I think you had a comment on the school bus.
Yeah, well, there's two comments. One is the construction vehicles, it is just very difficult. If you could just make some restrictions, it would be great, because you have families getting out of their cars, crossing over that road with their children. You've got these large construction vehicles entering, not always seeing us getting out of our cars, and soon it will be 14 children, so it definitely needs to get addressed. So when will we have a second meeting to address that if you're not going to address that tonight?
Well, I mean, what are our options?
We could, I just don't know how we would do that, so if anybody has an idea, about how we can, I mean, basically, we can change the hours of operation, and we can do, what is it, a stop order?
Or cease and desist.
Cease and desist is like the most extreme thing we can do. So I don't know what powers we have other than monitoring how things are going every 2 weeks in relationship to Andy working on Saturdays. I don't know what else we could do, but I'm open to ideas. There was an idea of having kind of like just for the trucks unloading, having a crossing guard there that the developer pays for. That was one idea that came up. I just...
Unfortunately, the town doesn't have crossing guards on staff.
Right, so it would be something special.
Does the police chief have any thoughts on the hours during the school bus drop-off and pickup?
I spent quite a bit of time down there with the residents at the school bus stop, and 2 trucks did come by when I was down there with them. They were larger trucks. And yes, the cars have to park on the side of the road, especially in the inclement weather. I think it's a great idea if the school bus will go up in there, but I'm not too hopeful, because we went through this on Warner Road, and for a whole lot of legal reasons, the superintendent and the town, they couldn't have the buses go down there. So the end of, right by Warner Road on the new development up there was the school bus stop. So I think my 2 cents worth would be approach the superintendent again, and if he has some very clear reasons why, he's going to let you know. That's really his decision as far as that goes. I know there were concerns when we had the development on Warner Road, and they couldn't go up into the development. It was at the end.
Do you know of any exceptions for Drumlin Hill?
Offhand, I don't. And I know, Erica, you had mentioned something, but the last time I was up there, the school bus stop was all at the end, and we had some safety concerns about that, too. Just a quick 2 cents worth on another issue. When we built the public safety center right in the center of Bolton, we were very, very sensitive to all the residents and the neighbors' needs right up front. So much so that we had meetings with all the neighbors, and we collected a notification list of neighbors. Now, there was talk tonight about having Saturdays by special permit. There has to be a very clear and a very defined notification method, both to the police and to the residents and the abutters if there's a special permit granted. Because what would happen would be, if they don't know there's a special permit on a particular Saturday, they're gonna call us, and we're gonna have to go up there. And if we don't know there's a special permit, we're gonna go up and we may take enforcement efforts that would not be justified. If he's doing something wrong, we'll hold him accountable. But if he's got permission but nobody else knows, that's not fair. So that should be part of that mechanism, is a notification to area residents to say, hey, on the 23rd, Saturday the 23rd of December, they have permission to work because of this. And we also, as the police department, need to know that. So you really need that second piece, or it's going to fail miserably.
Okay. No, I agree. So has everybody signed in? And maybe you'd be willing to collect email addresses amongst yourself so we can start.
I think the better way to do it is I have this certified butters list, and I will just send out a legal notice as I would for, like I did for this hearing, so that way everyone will have a
Is
written
that by
copy.
email or?
No, that's by mail.
Can I ask one more question? So if we did disallow ingress and egress during those times, is there a spot that you feel trucks could stop if they do happen to come?
There are no spots there. That was, as I said, Myself and the DPW director, right from the start, before the development was there, said the development it's overpopulating the area. The road network can't support it. So it can't support it. We're seeing that now. There's no place to put those trucks that would not be a safety hazard.
So Andy would need to make sure to tell the people that, you know, just to plan their trip, not to be there during those times.
It's impossible.
It's not realistic. It's not.
But I have a-
Well, you do more.
Yeah, so we really need to wrap this up and move on. Last comment, very quick.
Allison, I have a possible suggestion for a solution for what it's worth. I assume the parents drive their children down to the bus stop now. Is there a reason you couldn't drive them past that bus stop and around the corner? There's a big bus stop around on South Bolton where a lot of parents wait with their cars and their children, so that...
We have done that sometimes, but eventually you're going to be asking how many families, 70 families to do that, and that seems kind of crazy.
But you drive down anyway.
Well, done by the time you have 70 families up there.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Just an interim, maybe.
It makes, yeah, it's an option. Last comment, Andy?
Yeah, could you just
Close the
clarify,
hearing.
like, when you say, talking about not working on Saturdays and Sundays, am I correct in you're referring to heavy equipment?
We're referring.
That's how it's defined in
It's
the...
how it's
very
defined
specific
now
language.
in the permit.
Do you want to read it?
I think it's best to read it.
Yeah.
Is it 16? It's the whole piece of 16. I mean, specifically to that point, for this condition, I'm reading from the middle of paragraph 16 of the decision, or of the draft decision. For this condition, construction activity shall include but not be limited to startup of equipment or machinery, delivery of building materials and supplies, removal of trees, grubbing, clearing, grading, filling, excavating, import or export of earth materials, installation of utilities both on and off site, demolition of existing structures, removal of stumps and debris, and erection of new structures. So that's what? That's from the existing
That's from the
existing paragraph.
approval
Okay.
now, right.
Well, that's part of what our draft
Erection of new
But I mean, this is,
Okay.
that's from the old original one.
Or machinery and delivery of building materials. I mean, we have a lot of people that, you know, carpenters, they come and pick up trucks. They, you know, you have painters.
It sounds like to me from that list that like finished carpentry on the inside, painting, you know, those types of things, kind of your finished detail work would be allowed. You know, seeding the lawn, you know, kind of this, but it's the gross kind of activities, the noisy.
You're not going, so like are you saying that, like, you can't frame a house on a weekend?
I think that's in there. It says no erecting new structures, so.
So is that gonna be, is that something that goes on everywhere in Bolton? Like, because I understand heavy equipment. I can understand that, but to start telling people that they
There's some
can't
work
go to
allowed in
work.
there.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are being employed up there, and, you know, these people work, you know, framers, they go to work on Saturdays. They need to make a living.
Yep, so we're gonna do Saturdays, you know, by
No, but
special
I mean,
approval. and we'll see how
I
it
say it
goes.
should be limited to heavy equipment, not to somebody going out and painting a house.
That's not my motion.
Or
So I'm including all of
or
those.
or
That
nailing
doesn't
a
change
board.
my motion. So it's the exact same word.
No, I mean, it's erection of new, I would consider that erection of new structures, so I would say that would not be allowed.
Yeah,
I think that should be allowed. I don't see that as being,
That's not what's kind of...
I don't think that was the intent to, I think, you know, if it's heavy equipment, I understand. But if you start limiting people from going to work, I don't think that's
Andy,
right.
this is all about noise, and, you know, that's the final word. We're gonna,
Okay.
have a motion
Yeah,
to
we're a little late.
close the hearing and move on.
I make a motion to close this hearing?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna just, John Carlin, what was your, aye, and John Ritchie. John Ricci, you still there?
Hi, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
It's gonna be a fight over this. It's gonna be a fight It's coming into the road. I don't see why you couldn't change speed limits. I think that's the best solution because it's kind of messy at the road anyway.
I mean, I don't live there yet.
If I lived there, I would want the bus to come inside.
Yeah.
I think the superintendent would turn. But I get it. I bet you it's not a hard question. Maybe just doesn't want to deal with it. But if he inspected it, the bus driver inspected it, and was safe, they can go practice. If they want to check it, I think they should do that.
We need to talk to him again.
Because doing those particular times, I guarantee you, trucks, it's gonna be a mess. And it's hard to enforce. And
I respectfully hardcore disagree.
he runs that stuff. And I should tell you, any developer runs that stuff. They have, if he says don't show up at this time, totally. If he says don't show up at this time, don't show up. Total control. It's just not.
Yeah, no, you'll need to abide.
So you think we should have said that? I think this is good. Well, the
Actually,
good
set
thing
that on your building.
with the special approval status is we have a.
And I have this.
We can assess the entire situation.
Yeah, no, but now we have an easy course of action for issues. Well, where'd everybody go?
We're here. Who wouldn't miss it?
So we're on to our third, this is a continuation of the hearing for Condyne Capital Partners, Bolton Office Park, and their proposed assisted living facility to be located at 580 Main Street. So we have the engineer, Mark Dibbs here, Jeff O'Neill's here.
I just want to make sure that John Carlin, John, are you still on the line?
John Collins still here?
Okay, great.
Great. John Ricci's signed off.
John Ricci, yeah.
It's chilly in here.
Got cold. People, all those people leaving.
Oh, all the doors?
No, the door, I think because the door was open, everybody leaving.
Yeah.
Freezing.
Okay, so where did you want to start? Did you, Mark, do you have anything new to show us?
There were some, I made some revisions for conservation. Most of them were related to notes regarding erosion control, adding some erosion control out front near the walkway installation next to the basin, things like that. We did revise the dumpster location out to the end of the one parking lot, the opposite side, away from the wetlands. But that was the general, and just updating the operation and maintenance plan based on some of their suggestions. Those were the general changes that have happened and since we last spoke.
Mark, can I get a copy of the updated operation and maintenance plan?
Okay.
That would be helpful, because that's part of the planning board's review as well.
Okay. We did add some, I think you've seen this response, this 11.4
2014.
2014, outstanding issues related to Bolton Office Park.
We made those items listed. I think one thing we thought was going to be spoken upon was back to the parking, the additional parking for the Bolton Manor. I was under the understanding that a person from RCAP was going to be here.
Well, maybe we can start with the parking. I think that's one of your interests, so we can
Yeah,
get an update on the parking.
Unfortunately, I received an email today saying that the representative from RCAP couldn't come, so it's unfortunate. But I did get a response from them saying that they are receptive to the easement and the indemnification, and they basically said yes to it, so.
Is that
good. Linda, I asked, I said, are you willing to accept the easement and, provide indemnification to Bolton Office Park? And she responded by saying yes, so.
So these are the 15 parking spots that you've said you're willing to provide an easement for. This would be for Bolton Manor. And so then the outstanding issue with that is funding and construction.
I did have last week I met with RCAP on the site because they wanted to get a better understanding of where the easement was located and where the parking would be installed. And we did briefly talk about funding, so we discussed possibly looking at getting a grant, if there's grants out there that would, provide them with the funding. Or they could potentially look at putting it into one of their future budgets. So that's really the two options we discussed.
So that's some progress. Did you have something else to report?
A couple things. Terry Abdalian, Fawn Hill Road, Friends of Bolton Seniors. I'm not questioning what you just said, Erica, because I saw Don today, and he said that the real question was whether they were going to accept the easement. Did that email just come today?
It did come today, and unfortunately, she did not CC Dawn on that email, but I can print it out, and I can even forward it to you.
Yeah, because that was from 2 hours ago, or a few hours ago. So that's really good news. Do you happen to know what their fiscal year is? Dawn did not know, and so that would...
I didn't know, but I certainly can ask.
I mean, I think that's kind of critical, your timing, if you're still planning. I'd hate to see that their fiscal year ended yesterday or something, and we're not going to be able to know anything about funding for basically 2 years. That would delay things, and especially with some of the discussion that happened at the Board of Selectmen meeting, saying that there might be some economies of scale if we were using, you're doing a lot of work on roadways and driveways and stuff anyway, and you're going to have all that equipment there, that maybe there's a good, good use, a good savings that could be rendered because the equipment's there and could be piggybacked on. Because I'd hate to see that, okay, everybody's in agreement, but then nothing's done for a couple of years. So I think that that's important. The funding piece, even though I know the easement piece is really important, the funding piece is equally as important because we can't move, nothing can be moved forward. And then I just want to share some pictures. May I do that? Okay. So today's Wednesday, right? And I want it to be on camera too, but I'm going to share with you. So I'm getting up. Is it okay?
That's fine.
I just want to make sure I'm not doing anything wrong. But so yesterday, the Friends of Bolton Seniors had at the Senior Center our annual Thanksgiving dinner. We had 45 seniors that came, plus 8 people helping, plus there was a Shine counselor there. So I just want to show you, I don't know how I do this. They have to tell me, anyway, may not show, but I'll show you guys. So here's just some pictures of people here, and I'll show you, this is how many, so the room was basically filled. Probably, this is the stuff that warms my heart, but also this is the overflow parking. So this is what's happened on a day like yesterday. So that's that space that is not going to be available anymore, and that's how many cars were there. Now, if you can...
Can I see that photo?
Sure. We also had, somebody took a photo of the parking that is actually at the manor, and you can see people are parking incorrectly, when they shouldn't be parking, because there just isn't anything, and this is the other piece. The other thing that is disturbing as all of this is, and you can see how people have to, there's quite a distance to walk. The other thing that's disturbing is that we had 2 people come in and say, I can only stop in and tell you that I'm not coming because there's no place for me to walk. The woman's with a cane, has had hip surgery. She couldn't park even over there. There's no place for her to park at the facility. So this is, again, it's a huge issue because then the senior center can't be used. So anything that, and I know easements big, I'm not saying that that's not a big piece, but I think anything that you all can do to, if by using some, and I'm not telling you how to run your business, right? I mean, I am, but I'm not. I'm trying not. But if there's a way of cutting the costs down some by using some of your equipment, a way of getting RCAP in so that we're not looking 2 years down the road and still, even though everybody's on the same page, nothing's been done.
So is the easement going to RCAP or to both?
RCAP.
So even in town meeting, we couldn't put money towards it because it's private?
Because the town does not own the property.
So
We
it's
can't
like-
make improvements to property the town doesn't own.
Right, so the town couldn't do anything anyway.
Right.
And who owns RCAP? State related to that, or is
I
it?
don't know if it's state or federal. I don't know. But the HUD is a federal.
Isn't it a nonprofit that
I don't know, has it?
gets money from HUD but is independent?
They said, from what I understand, what Don said, and you were at the meeting, I guess, is that they would have to check with HUD before going, before getting through the budget. So they're tied into HUD. I thought that was a federal agency, but is there a state HUD?
There's no state HUD. I don't know if RCAP is, to Jonathan's point,
I
but
think
Massachusetts.
it's a nonprofit that gets funding through HUD.
But somehow, gets funding, so they would need to check with
So
HUD.
they would be applying in their next budget
Yeah.
for this. Either a grant or it would be part of, it would be a capital grant probably, rather than maintenance.
Yeah, but then there's the maintenance issue too, but that.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know.
It's a robot.
Yeah. Well, so that's some good progress.
So I guess I'll just continue to sort of coordinate that with RCAP and see what they're.
There, is a general goodwill to the community, Condyne, I don't know, is there any way that, you could think about?
All right, will you approve it tonight?
Prove what?
Yes. I'm not on board.
If we have an approval, then we're...
What you're saying, if you grade it and pave it?
Will you approve the ability on the plan of what we're requesting tonight for allowing us to go ahead and build the facility the way it's drawn? If we pave the spaces.
Yeah,
We gotta get to a closure.
Yeah, so where are we on that, Erica? So we have 90 days to make a decision from the date,
Well, once you
filed?
close the hearing, you have 90 days to make your decision. So right now, we're still in the public hearing process, so.
Okay.
What was that?
The public.
When you close the hearing, you have
Yeah,
90 days. to
by
make a
Mass
decision.
General Law, we have 90 days, the board has 90 days to make their decision.
So I guess, just to get to the point, I think it's a good idea to get to the point. We're kind of in this holding pattern. This is my point of view. You guys are waiting to get an operator, and you've kind of stopped developing the design up to, you're like at 60, maybe 65%. You've kind of stopped.
Of the exterior or contents?
Just the whole package. You've just kind of stalled out and you're waiting for an operator. That's my perception of where you are. And so, our choice is, we could vote to, approve with a lot of conditions to fill in the gaps, conditions for the things that aren't in your plans yet. Or we can wait until you get an operator and then we can get more specific. So those are kind of the two options.
But what is the difference if we're the operator? I mean, I could go out and buy any assisted living complex and I could actually be the operator. I'd have to look at my licenses and approval.
You know, so if, that's great, so if you're the operator, then you're ready to continue working with us on the things we need more specific information on. So there's kind of a whole list here, as well as, you know, the design review board has things that they're still, you know, that are not complete in terms of your package. So I think if you looked at the Century Mill, if you looked at Clinton Savings Bank's, their package, and then what we asked them for more detail and what they provided, they kept working with us right up to the end, but you've kind of like bogged down. And so it's fine if you're the operator, so that means you're ready to become more specific about your plans, but maybe we could go over some of the design review board.
So, I guess asking you guys, do you need the approval to get an operator? Is it like, are we dealing with like a chicken and egg situation?
Absolutely, because then if we have nothing to sell at that point, we're gonna go get somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one thing I'm, you know, willing to do is, you know, have a vote of, you know, that we endorse this use for this land. It's not the special permit, but it's saying, you know, that we like what you're showing us so far, we endorse this use for this land, the subdivision, everything that you've shown us, and, you know, you can use that to, you know, as part of your process of finding an operator. But I don't think, you know, we would want to, you know, give a special permit to a restaurant unless we knew what the restaurant was. You know, if you're the operator, great, then we can kind of nail these final details down. Otherwise, I mean, we could certainly, you know, work on conditions if we were going to vote for the special, to kind of fill in the gaps, but it's going to, you know, that would take a little bit of time to come up with the conditions.
I mean, I think this is a great project and I want this to happen, so I was just, you know, I just want to know from your perspective, right, time frames and what you need permit-wise and to get an operator and stuff, like exactly how it works.
We need at least the approval of a special permit that allows us to say, hey, we can go ahead and do this. If we have to come back and introduce the parties to you, we can do that at a period of time or whenever once things get finalized. But right now, like you said, we're in a holding pattern. We're in a holding pattern because we can't do anything either. I mean, we've been at it since started in Concom in May.
Couldn't we do a special permit conditional upon DRP's full approval? So just, we don't need to state every specific thing, but if we just say that it's approved by the design review board, like, can we do that?
No, we're gonna need to be specific if we're gonna do conditions, because, you know, basically that's, we have more control if we're voting on the special permit. If we vote it without knowing everything, then we have to have very detailed conditions.
Yeah, but I think we're in a spot here where they might not be able to find an operator unless the operator knows that.
I think every applicant for a special permit is gonna say that, because it makes it easier for them. Like, wouldn't you, it would be easier for you to like say, okay, I want a special permit for a restaurant and then find the operator later. But, you know, we want to be involved in, you know, negotiating things with the operator. We want to know who the operator is.
Yeah, but we also don't want to completely stall out the process either.
Well, that, you know, he can say that, whether that's true or not is, you know, I don't, you know, I can't.
Can you speak on that, son?
Well, if we're gonna go back to the DRB review, I mean, there's a lot of items in there that can be addressed. A lot of them seem to be simple architecture, where the fascia window, someone didn't like the fascia window on that side of the building over the porte-cochere. Well, that's someone's personal opinion, but is that written into the zoning code that we have to adhere to that specific window over that porte-cochere? I think that what I'm getting at is, I think...
They want to see what it's going to look like.
Oh, I'm with them,
And
but I think they're
have-
overreaching the bounds, and I think a
Yeah,
lot of
you know
people
what?
are a little bit overreaching.
You were at that meeting where
You know?
the Board of Selectmen came in and kind of tried to read us the riot act. Well, we checked on everything. We do have that authority. The Design Review Board has that authority. They want to see it in the plan. They want to see what the windows look like. You know, that's in there. We have that authority. We can review that. So it's really important for you to understand that and not, you know, take that meeting. Because basically after that meeting, you kind of stopped developing your design and stopped responding to our requests for things. So I just want it to be clear, nobody's overstepped anything. You know, they have the right to say, you know, this window doesn't seem fitting, and can you show us some other options? And that you can respond to that is important, I think.
Well, on our side, we'll continue to respond to the architectural elements that they're looking for.
Well,
It's an easy resolution for us, but right now, we're stuck. We can't go this way, we can't go that way until we know that we got the ability to get the special permit.
Right, so you know, on my end, I haven't seen a lot of work done on the big parking area and making the pedestrian, you know, experience from the big parking area to the whole site better. So that's one issue. You know, there are a whole number of them. And so I'd like to see, you know, something on that front. It's just a huge, big parking lot, and I haven't seen you do anything to make it more user-friendly.
On the existing building or on the proposed?
This is the large parking lot that serves both the proposed building and the existing. So, you know, I haven't seen any development on that. In terms of the landscape plans, there were requests, you know, about native plants on the wetland side of the building. Have you done anything with that? I'd like to see cut sheets of, you know, light fixtures. I mean, they're just kind of a lot of detailed things. If you look at the Clinton Savings Bank package, you'll see, you know, how specific they were. And as I said, I think we're about 65% there.
I'd like to speak to the big parking lot. I mean, the entire thing, the existing condition, the entire thing just sheet flows into the basin and back. We've added a substantial bioretention area and curbing down the entire thing to increase water quality for that. We can't go and disturb to make anything work financially beyond the islands and the area we are disturbing that's called out on the plans. There's a specific saw cut on there where we're grading up to the proposed facility. I don't know that we can, I don't think we want to change that too much. We've tied in the walkway that is there to the new walkways, to the walkway that goes out to the street, to the walkway that goes to the manor. I think there's a saw cut line, which is, other than the bioretention area, which is a huge upgrade to the water quality. You know, it's just trickling across that entire parking area.
Yeah, so if you want to pull that up and just talk about it quickly. Basically, you have this huge parking lot, and the pedestrian choices are to walk through the big parking lot or to walk way up out of your way. There should be a sidewalk along there. So your options are, if you're parked here, to kind of walk over here. But you should be able to walk the shortest distance there and over, instead of, you're keeping this funny sidewalk that nobody uses. So there needs to be, you know, it'd be great if there was a sidewalk in the middle, but I understand that's a lot, but there at least should be a sidewalk along there. So those are, you know, the type of responses, you know, I brought this up probably 3 meetings ago and nothing's been done about it, so.
again, I don't know who's walking from this parking space to this building. The people parking here are for the office.
Can I make a suggestion? I have seen in large parking lots that with line marking, you do a pedestrian crossway. And you can have the movable, pedestrian crossing signs so that people can safely access from one side to the other without having to build a dedicated walkway.
So if it becomes an issue, we can construct a sidewalk down the edge of the pavement from here to here.
Yep, I think
And
that would be
that
a
all
big
that
improvement.
does is allow people that are in here to come right across and then get in so they can walk, they don't have to walk down the street or
Right.
vice versa.
That would be a big improvement.
And there's only 2 entrances to that side of the building, it's there and it's there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, yes, a lot of people will be using it for this building, but I think, this parking, parts of it will be used for this building. You just never know where you're gonna get pushed in terms of parking. So it's trying, you're getting rid of parking spaces there, or they're getting rededicated to this building. So it's trying to make this more user-friendly. 'Cause right now, it's just kind of a wasteland. So, Eric, is there anything on the design review board, things that you think are important to?
I think we should go through the comments they had for planning board. I think it was towards the end of the report.
Okay.
So what's the difference between this one with the comments you're talking about and then this guy?
So this is just my outline based on what we've talked about at previous,
Okay.
at the previous hearings.
Okay, so that's not outstanding
It's
question.
nothing final, it's nothing official, it's just, I was trying to help us move along.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
So let's just start at additional information needed by the DRB. So they're looking for the lighting plan. They're looking for plans for signage. These are all things that were done with Clinton Savings Bank.
Just on the lighting plan, is that a photometric with foot candles, everything, the whole?
Yeah, so if you could show him Clinton Savings Banks, yeah.
Sure.
At some point, yeah. A parking space allocation document for the Bolton Office Park and the proposed assisted living facility. Service areas, utilities and equipment information, dumpster screening details are needed. Utility locations, underground or otherwise, need to be defined for the DRB to review. The location of the emergency generator needs to be defined for the DRB to review. The DRB needs to see material samples, including would-be clapboard colors, evidence of non-glare glass for windows, the stone veneer for the column bases, roof shingle type and color. So, notes for the planning board to consider: review the utility truck door access and compatibility with nearby parking. Is it a truck dock or a grade level door? Do you know that?
It would be a grade level door.
Okay, so it'd be good to see, a detail of that. A semi-tractor trailer at 60 feet long seems to be a very tight fit. Alternatively, more trips with smaller trucks to deliver supplies might be the plan. Does the ambulance plan to use the main entrance or the utility door, which is through the kitchen area? Is this appropriate? Review the adequacy of the access height of the port cochere for routine and medical and fire emergency vehicles. The DRB would appreciate being copied on reviews by other town departments to make sure that the action taken to resolve their concerns does not adversely impact a DRB area of interest. By example, if a fire lane requires parking spaces to be moved, the DRB will want to review the landscaping and screening for the new parking location. What is the appropriateness, again, of non-food deliveries through the kitchen area? So that's kind of extensive. We've asked about fire suppression, but we don't know about that yet. Is that correct? What's your system going to be? Are you going to have tanks buried, or are you going to use the system that Bolton Office Park uses?
Yes, it's anticipated to be the same system, the same type of, the building will be
Same
sprinkled.
source?
Yes, with the same
So
source.
you're gonna use the pond as the source, so, you know, so for me, that, you know, I think an engine, we've had, you know, somebody from the emergency, EMS say that the pond has plenty of water, but, you know, I think if it's gonna be for both buildings, I think an engineer needs to review that pond. It's been in existence for, what is it, over 20 years? It has cattails growing in it. I think it's silted up a lot, and I think it should be, you know, checked on if you're gonna use that. If you're not, you know, we just wanna know what the fire suppression system, so there's just kind of a whole level of detail that is missing.
Do you have this list? Could you run through this list where you are with these things?
Which is that? That's what he just read off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you just like update us on those points?
The lighting plan, the poles, the existing poles and proposed poles are shown on there, but a photometric plan with foot candles and stuff
And then-
is to be prepared.
And
So
then
we'll-
cut sheets for, you know, all the fixtures you're proposing. So that's the pole fixtures and the exterior building fixtures.
Directional signage, some signage has been added, but we can just make sure a full signage plan is available. Parking space allocation document. Always proposed, we gave an existing and proposed numbers last time. We've always documented that it would be shared throughout between the two buildings, but we can identify a certain, an exact certain number for that. The utility stuff, we could, anything on this list, we can add a generator, dumpster screening details, things like that. We did not, other than the rendering that's been shown, which in general, the DRB did, you know, I think there's a comment in there that they, you know, was a great start.
Can you show that to us? Pop that up.
They acknowledged that it was a
So
very
they
good.
like the varied facades, roof lines, and roof heights. They'd like to see a more cohesive architectural style. I guess the window, they're talking about that over the porte-cochere. So there's some window issues and wood details. So can you show us the utility truck door into the kitchen area? What they're talking about that? And the loading dock issues?
Doesn't make sense, but that's this area here. It's definitely, we won't have truck deliveries on that, and.
So that'll be food, linens.
I think we can definitely create, you probably have floor plans somewhere, but there can definitely be, I think, a separate hallway. You know, I know literally going through the kitchen is not a good idea, but, you know. The inside could be modified where it's, the kitchen is off the hallway. I don't feel that would be bringing in everyday supplies physically through the kitchen. So that's a nice area.
And then the dumpster, where is the dumpster?
The dumpster we had shown it here. It was a very close proximity. They were worried about wind debris. So we put it at the end of the parking over on this side. So, you know, whether things get wheeled out this way or out the end. Yeah, so we could, this linen thing could be moved, you know, somewhere else. Some things like that, and create a dedicated hallway without, it's true right now, it does kind of go through the kitchen, I would say. Create a dedicated hallway to get into the facility, you know, have a, more like have a door here and it's straight through here.
So-
It's a minor.
You know, so it would be nice to know what's coming in and out of that door. So the front door is where people would go in and out in emergency situations, like on a...
Proposed
Okay.
right now, that is where, you know, that would be, both drop-off parking and there'd be access for emergency vehicles right through the front.
I've been into a couple of assisted living facilities and I've always seen it come through the front door.
Again, the material samples, we can provide that as
And
needed.
then, so is there an elevation that shows how the mechanicals will be hidden by the roof?
Yeah, there will be flat areas of roof. I don't have a roof plan, but it's anticipated that mechanicals will be hidden by the roof line on a flat interior, flat roof. But we can provide a roof plan if that's needed.
Yeah, so that was one of kind of their design details. Where's the color? The color poster, they're suggesting, you know, rather than this flat roof, you know, a roof that is a pitched roof from the porte cochere.
Oh, okay, yeah, on that. Number 5, again, deliveries, we can...
So, that's, is there anything else from your outstanding list, Erica?
Yeah, there are a couple of issues. I just wanted to bring up the fact that conditions in the special permit will likely include a pre-construction meeting where we can, you know, talk to the contractor about construction hours and timeline and erosion controls, all of those issues. And then a post-construction meeting to make sure that everything's been completed in compliance with the special permit. Let's see.
The tree protection, construction hours, tree protection.
Yeah, I think the note I put on there was that, I believe it was trees that are to remain remarked prior to construction, you know, so that somebody just doesn't come along and, you know.
Right, so, you know, on your landscape plan, if you can show the trees that are staying and, you know, the ones close to the construction area, that there, some type of protection's being installed. And then, you know, at the bottom, will the fire pond feed the sprinkler system? So again, getting to work on, you know, your fire suppression system, so that can be reviewed.
Excuse me, you just mentioned construction hours. Are they, after being here for the last discussion, are they been defined or are they?
They haven't been defined yet, no.
Well, I mean, in this thing, we have it, but
Well, that's just an example for the board to look at. It's just what we've been, that's what we used on Clinton Savings Bank, so.
we should probably just move forward with what, you know, we previously stated. You know,
It's up to the board how they want to handle it. I think first off, Andy, you know, hasn't been in compliance with his permit conditions, so I think he falls under sort of a different category than other developers, to be quite honest. And you have to also consider the fact that they're in a business district and not in a residential area.
Well, they are in a residential area.
Partially, it's mainly business, limited.
Well, they've got 27 people in the manor.
That's true.
That's,
But
I mean,
it should, it should go much quicker.
Oh, I would hope 6 years.
So it's like,
You're not putting-
whatever the tolerance people
Yeah.
have that's
That-
been
that's,
exhausted.
You know, but you have to recognize who these folks are. So just,
Yeah.
you know, just keeping that in mind, that it's not all business, it is.
Right.
So
you know,
we-
residents.
It's a different part of
We will
town.
revisit
It's not
that.
where Century Mills is, it's a different part of town.
Yeah, you've got people living there though.
Sure,
We
but it's
will-
the most highly
Most treasured,
dense piece of real estate really in the town, too.
yes. This month.
Great, so does that give you things to work on? I mean, I think that would be great to see progress on those things, and then, you know, we can get to where we want to be.
Is there anything in that list that you can't do without an operator, or can you, everything that list be
I mean,
accomplished?
we can,
Yeah, everything that you just went through can be accomplished with design, with us. So, we'll go ahead and address them, we'll be at the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
So let's continue.
Take a motion to
then.
continue. Do you have a date?
I do, it's our next meeting. I wrote it down. Our next meeting is December 10th. It can be at 7:30.
John, I move to, Jonathan, to continue the hearing for the next meeting, December 10th at 7:30 p.m.
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. John Carlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Hi, still
Thank
on.
you, sir.
Is it awake?
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And Mark, at the next meeting, could you actually provide me with a hard copy? It's just helpful so that we can scale off of it. It's hard to do that with an electronic.
what I
Oh,
showed
awesome.
today.
Thank you.
Vote on the request or no? Or so no?
I think we need to keep pushing them.
The written request for the traffic study or whatever.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Next time.
I think we have to like look at it as a whole.
Yeah.
Do we have more business?
We have that,
You know, I didn't really do too much work on our next item.
what's our next
So I'm
item?
not sure that it's worth talking in too
I
much
thought
detail
I thought we
tonight.
could talk quickly about the grant bid. Is it
Oh, you know,
Delta?
I didn't put that on there, but we can certainly talk about that, the DLTA.
Okay.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
So MAPC has grants, with it's DLT or DL?
Yeah, District Local Technical Assistance, so basically, they get funding to provide assistance to towns. So they helped us develop the mixed-use village overlay.
So they helped us go through that last process and then also get prepared for town meeting in terms of slot documents to
It's
plan. So
very helpful.
So what would we do with that then?
Well, Jonathan had a couple of good ideas, and then I had one additional idea.
Yeah, so let's,
So,
what was your
go through them.
additional idea?
One-
Start.
I was just thinking for town center, possibly, I don't know where Rutland Conservation Trust is with that project. I know they just completed their survey. I don't know what the results of that survey are yet. But, you know, I thought maybe they might need some technical assistance, if they need renderings or, I'm not sure, but I thought that could be a possibility.
So the things that were on my list, one was,
So the mobility plan to show
Yeah.
all the sidewalk connections and paths to,
yeah, one was to come up with a mobility plan. Mary should have stayed for this, but showing existing trails and sidewalks and bike lanes, and then they'd help us come up with a
plan to
plan to
connect.
link them
Yeah.
over time. So that was one.
Do they do
idea.
trails? Do they do that?
It would just be a plan, a
like a
site
design.
plan, and design, yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
You also had the idea of the traffic study. sort of analyzing what?
Well, yeah, so we've talked about trying to get help with the traffic related to these businesses and kind of trying to get help looking at it as one issue rather than piecemeal. So that was one issue, and then
you also.
There was the local sewer district.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that on the list.
Okay.
The other one was the aquifer.
The aquifer protection. So that's like 5 items. And those jump out at anybody?
So the local sewer district, so that's zoning, like, what did we talk about that again?
Yeah, so we talked about how, I think Erica came up with a spreadsheet that I think like 98% or 90-something% of houses in the downtown area are non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming lots. The lots are too small and they don't have, so that creates issues with their septic systems. Some of them have real issues, like the Cracker Barrel has a pump tank that they pump. I think they have 2 apartments upstairs, so they pump that, I think, weekly or every 2 weeks. I've heard that they spend like $12,000 a year pumping their pump tank because they don't have a septic system. So that's probably like an extreme example. Another thing is a lot of the properties in the downtown area are adjacent to a stream on this side, and then the swamp over there, the wetlands. So it's just one of these conditions that, so when the water table's high, that's when I smell like the gases, sewage gases. And somebody told me that's one of the reasons, a lot of the house values on Main Street are lower because of the septic issue.
So the intent would be to have a sewer system for Main Street?
Yes, so it came up because I looked at they call it a package plant, I don't know what, but that's running at like 25% capacity.
Okay. This is all coming back to me now.
Yeah, so that's where it came up with, it's a little bit political because I think, Board of Health has looked into it, but nothing's really happened, and I think the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator have looked into it, but nothing's happened.
Right?
Yeah, I think it sounds like they talk about it every once in a while, but
So who manages that pump house now?
Well, we do. I mean, we paid to build it.
Yeah.
It must have been very expensive.
Yeah.
So it can handle 42,000 gallons a day, and it's averaging like 12, I think. You'd have to check those figures. So we paid a lot, so we're servicing the debt on building it, and we're not using 3/4 of the capacity.
And that was for the schools, right?
Yeah, so it was designated for schools and public buildings, and so we could be, we could have a sewer district and people could be paying to use the excess capacity that's just sitting there. And I think we did a rough calculation of the houses that need it, and it was lower than
the capacity.
Lower than the capacity, still left room for, additional, like the school to expand, things like that.
So what kind of costs, so we'd be talking about running a pipe down Main Street, right?
So Harvard just did this, yeah, so there's like, you can either, I think in Harvard you can do an upfront cost, like a one cost, and then you pay kind of the annual fee, or you can like break it up into monthly payments for like 15
Lancaster
years.
did this, and they advertised it for something like 10 or 20 years.
So what, the town would pay for the main pipe, right? And then the houses along Main Street would pay to attach to it?
There'd be a fee that would cover the whole thing, like you, instead of, building an expensive engineered system like my neighbor did, it's like all high and it has like a 13-foot vent, you would, spend that money or less of it and hook in.
So you're talking about creating a bylaw, right, of the sewer district? Or it would be creating a new
Just
zone
going
district?
through, they give us help going through the process of studying it and seeing is it viable.
Oh, okay.
Of course, it has to be approved by
Right.
The Board of Selectmen has to go to town meeting, so it's a big thing, and just is that worth doing? It's definitely a planning issue, some people have argued that it's a Board of Health issue.
I think the first couple of steps though, because I've been specifically told that this is Board of Health and Board of Selectmen, that it doesn't fall under planning board's jurisdiction. So I think the first couple of steps, if this is something that the planning board wants to pursue, that we should probably go in front of Board of Health and Board of Selectmen to just discuss it and to move it forward, because I think, us doing it without that would cause problems. Because I think we'd be stepping on the other board's toes, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's
why is it not in planning board?
That's just what I've been told.
I mean, I think we can study it, it's just the Board of Selectmen get the final decision on whether it's entertained, So it's, do we want to spend time on it? It's definitely a big issue, I don't know, it seems it's much simpler than it's made up to be, but, there are other things we could work on with the grant.
So we could use the grant to help jointly come up with something. I mean, I remember when this came up some time ago, and it was like an impending issue. Over the next 30 years, we may be seeing failures of those septic systems on Main Street, and then, as that happens, the problems are going to get worse.
Because none of them passed Title V, right?
Well, that was one of the issues, so think about, so that the two houses they took down, one of the reasons was they didn't have, people were living in them, and then they didn't pass Title V, so that, the renters were ejected. But like the houses next to those on both sides have the same condition. They're right up against that great brook, one's right behind their house, like probably 20 feet. And then on this side, like right across the street here, there's the house with the tower, the little red house. They've got that swamp back there, and then like for a few years there's a beaver back there, like rising the water table. So, it's an issue. It's an issue, and there's some political nut related to the package treatment facility not being used for residential, but I don't know what it is. But it's one of these knots that's like existed for years, and
I could see the politics if it was a supply and demand, I don't know the history at all, but if it was a supply and demand game, and not everybody who could potentially tie into it would have the ability to tie into it, because the numbers on the demand side would be so great. But it sounds like you guys have looked at that a little bit, and back of the napkin concluded there's plenty of capacity there. So I don't get it.
But you also potentially have more wear and tear of the system and more cost of the town, so maybe.
Sure, but if you're paying into it, if the numbers make sense.
Yeah, but only a certain, 2% of the town will be able to tie into whatever,
So that all the wear and tear would be factored into
It would be factored in, and it sounds like only X percent would need it. And the percentage that would need it, there's enough supply there. If those facts are all there, I don't get it.
I mean, it seems I'm just trying to think of devil's advocate.
I don't know how Lancaster did it, whether it was an upfront payment and then a service payment, or whether it was simply, here's what your taxes will be over the next 20 years.
But did they build a new plant?
They did.
So I mean, it's not as complicated because you're not mixing the. Here, the problem, I guess, is complicated because it's like the public use and the private use.
Okay.
I mean, if you have sewer,
between the two.
if you have sewer in a town, you'd have a sewer bill, so.
Yep.
So I mean, it could be adjusted over time, I guess. If you had, if it wasn't upfront, if it was just a bill, then new factors could be weighed.
And is there concern over the infrastructure cost, any burden to the town? Does the town lay a pipe and the residents bear the cost of the connections? Or could it all be passed through to the residents? I think there's probably a way to skin it.
The main pipe would probably be too much for that small amount of residents, I would assume.
How many houses do you think are involved or contemplated?
Where's that?
I can show you the
Like 40?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth having at least a discussion, I think. I mean, and it sounds like plenty of discussions have been had, but I'd love to educate myself and know where the hair is.
So I think it's all of the parcels that I highlighted in yellow.
20 or 30. I have enough acreage. It's not for me. I just wanted to.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of problems in the sense that it sounds like there's already, we know of non-conformed septic systems that probably would fail if they were.
Yeah, once the house
This is not
changed
good,
hands.
right? I mean, they've got
No, I
like.
agree, it's a concern. I just think we need to take the appropriate avenue.
So when these houses change hands, which I'm sure some of them have changed hands in the past few years, how is it, I mean, they have to accept that it doesn't pass Title V and buy it up anyway?
Well,
How does it work?
you have to design a new system, so.
So if somebody sells their house, if somebody buys a house in those houses, they have to design a new system?
Yeah, if it doesn't pass, they have to design something new. So I think, the Board of Health has been bending over backwards, and the engineers have been bending over backwards to come up with systems that, are really high or get, air filtered into them, like they have fans and, it's complicated.
Lots of moving parts that can fit.
Yeah, so it's not like what we're doing, most of us are doing with gravity. They have like pumps, they might even have computers monitoring.
Wow.
I think I've heard that. And so even people who have had these new systems put in, they want the option because, if you're up against a wetland, the conditions could change just by how much rain you have. And you could, even though you spent $35,000 for a system, it could fail. And not just fail like inspection, it could fail.
Visually.
Yeah, like you can't flush, there's no negative pressure. So, we have like a week of rain and snow melt.
And then you can't flush.
So it's a real issue, and
So I'm buying a
I
house
don't know.
Friday with a pump, and I'm scared right now.
I mean, if you're smelling stuff is failing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that
So
shouldn't
I
happen.
think there's some people who are terrified, who might not have the money
Well,
to do a full system.
I was just gonna say, looking at some of these houses when you drive by, I'm not sure people would even have, who live in them, the extra money to tie into it. I don't know. It seems like maybe it's like older people, some smaller houses.
You're taking on Jonathan's neighborhood.
Yeah, no,
I don't know, I'm just saying some of the houses,
I'm not gonna get into the.
some of the houses are run down.
Well, that's why they have like, you can pay a monthly fee or you can pay, didn't you say, Erica, when you looked into Harvard or somebody, that they had two options, like the one lump and the little payment? Maybe that was you, or maybe it was, I don't know.
I don't remember now, to be quite honest.
I think you can pay like the big figure, or you can just have it like car payments.
Okay.
And where in Lancaster is that? Just the down near the colleges?
10 years ago, I looked at a house on,
They probably did
George
the
Hill.
whole thing, right?
George Hill.
It was a big
If it was
piece of the
George
town.
Hill, then they did the whole town.
Yeah,
right?
and I think it was, oh crap, was it built into the taxes? I don't think so. I think it was a separate upfront charge.
The thing about it is, I don't, it's gonna be, more, you have to set up a sewer district commission, but it's not, it's gonna take time, but it's
Yep.
not gonna cost, it's not gonna increase our taxes. And it would actually make that system work more efficiently, and it could cut costs, whatever we're paying in debt on that, and whatever we're paying in maintenance yearly would be shared. So I don't get why it's a hot potato. But maybe you want to talk to Cynthia about the different ideas.
Yeah, it's funny, for the last week and a half, we've been playing phone tag. So I eventually do want to speak to her.
Or do we get on the agenda for the selectmen and just have a conversation, try to get ourselves educated?
Yeah, I guess it would be good to find, I mean, I know Don, has a lot to share.
Yep.
And then maybe it's, one or two members of the Board of Health, so it might be good to have a meeting, a joint meeting with people who've been involved with the issue over
I
time.
think that would be a great idea.
And see what's up. So if you could look into
Yeah, I
that.
certainly will. Now, does the board feel strongly about any one of those ideas in particular? Because I'm not sure, in talking with Cynthia, I'll find out if we can submit more than one proposal, or it can only be one proposal, or can we submit several ideas under one proposal that they can delegate a certain amount of money to each? I mean, granted,
This
we may
is-
not even win money this year, I'm not sure.
I mean, so I think that the idea of mapping out trails and figuring out connections, that's probably like the least political one. And then, having them help us think about.
Don't we already have that though?
We have some of our trails, but it hasn't been, so it's finding all the trails, and then it's how do they work together and coming up with like a plan that we could work towards, like making connections as things get developed.
So you're saying somebody would go out there with GPS and like literally put it on the map, or?
Yeah, they would map.
Do they do that service? I assume they would just provide the plan to us, in the end. I thought we would be providing them with.
Well, I don't know, how far have we gotten with our GPS?
Carol has a group that's been working on mapping a lot of the trails, so they're making pretty good progress.
So some trails are on our GPS system, and then people have been volunteering, and there's an app, and they've been doing them. So it'd be a designer taking that information and looking at like, where do we want more sidewalks, where do we want to try and link conservation trails, so they make loops, and a lot of them just dead end.
That actually might be a good project maybe for next year, once we have more of the trails mapped.
And then
Thinking out loud.
the other the other idea, I think, which is, the issue that's come up is, traffic and looking at the businesses that are coming and the traffic patterns.
I think a traffic study would be good. For instance, do you need a left-hand turning lane onto Wattaquatic? But I'm not sure. That's a state thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my only concern with that one, is how does Mass DOT play
Right,
into
so-
that? So I would just hate to get this grant funding and do something that,
That we can't act
at the end
upon.
of the day, we can't act upon, and it doesn't really go anywhere. We did receive, and I'm gonna send it to the board, Mass DOT's proposal for the transfer of ownership, and they do spell out their 5-year and 10-year plan for what they propose to do. So I'll send that along, and you can see what the improvements there.
I mean, yeah, so I think the sewer district is good. The town center, I mean, I don't know what BCT's plan is in the future, whether they're gonna try to sell it back to the town again or not, which I'm not sure how that would pass or not pass. But if we could get them a grant to help them out something, with conceptualizing the town center, and I don't know, I mean, if that's something that would help them or not.
How would that work?
I don't know.
I don't know. How would the planning board be helping them, because they're kind of autonomous?
Yeah, I don't know.
I just assumed in the design and the layout of the town center. So once they decide on what they're gonna put there, I didn't know if MAPC could do renderings of some sort,
Well-
like they did with Village Overlay, because that seemed to really help with
Yeah.
Village Overlay.
Yeah.
Town center it seems to be a project that everyone's in favor of, so that's kind of why I was thinking this might be a good one.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is, like, if we do end up having a town common with a quintessential gazebo in the middle, where there's some band, where's everybody gonna park? I assume maybe at Memorial Field. So, do we need a walkway? Do we need to revisit the walkway along Wattaquatic and that whole area, What?
John, any ideas?
It's just like nodding off.
I think maybe
She rolled over.
It's the same, he's been on since,
Good man.
it's, That's
I
odd.
don't know.
So I know they want these grant proposals as soon as possible.
As soon as, well, I think our chances of getting accepted is better if we get it in sooner.
Yeah.
So, and they, based on, I went to a Magic meeting where they have someone from MAPC there talking about this grant project, or this program, and they were saying that they rank the proposals that are regional highest. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that maybe the traffic study in coordination with Lancaster, but other than that, these really are just town.
I mean, the whole town center with, you know, the town common and to Memorial Park and a left-hand turning lane to Wattaquatic, just that whole
Well,
hot
it's
spot of
like
an area.
everything, it's the town common, it's traffic,
Yeah.
and then it's mobility.
Yeah.
That seems like kind of a big regional type of thing, but.
For grant purposes, I think that's probably our best bet. Center of town.
But if you're gonna talk to her and then send us an email
Yeah, that's
and
what I
we
was
can just
gonna-
respond.
I just wanted to get her feeling on what she thought would
What does this say?
be best moving. Oh, that's my mobility plan. I have the worst handwriting.
Oh, probability. It looked like probability pair.
Great.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, John. Bye, James.
I think he's already sleeping.
Thanks for being here.
Sort of.
That was fun.